Amigos, amigas, welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. Going to just jump right in, starting 7 p.m. Pacific. I'm Wiso from Food Mex Nation. This is an all-along podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football, as you can see behind me, and apparently all over me. Mexican soccer is just screaming around here with El Tri back. So more national team discussions, which I love. Not that all the other ones aren't important, but we get to talk all about Mr. Tuca Ferretti, the list, the players, the youngsters that are coming in, and already Tuca spicing things up for everybody. Welcome to the chat, Mr. Cesar Hernandez on today's. How's it going, Cesar?
Doing well, doing well. I took a little break over the weekend, but of course, I was still working on the go. I feel bad for all my friends. I went to Austin, Texas, but I still forced them to watch Liga MX. I still forced them to watch the games. Luckily, a lot of them are soccer fans, so it wasn't that difficult to convince them to watch some games with me. But you know, this sport, I mean, just there's never a break. After the World Cup, we just jump straight back into Liga MX, man.
It's great. It's great. Right. All right. Well, we'll start. We all have Mr. Tom Marshall. He's running around 8 to 10 minutes left. He didn't give us an excuse or he didn't give us a reason. He just said, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. So, you know, you don't question Tom.
What a jerk. We question him, but maybe.
He doesn't answer us. He doesn't answer us. So let's just jump right in. We tweeted out a question. It says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important are these friendlies for the younger players? And I guess we'll go with you, Cesar.
Yeah, I don't know who else at this point, right? I was really thinking about this because I do understand when people are just like, oh, these are partidos moleros, blah, blah, blah. It's a World Cup year. I mean, a lot of us are still having a little bit of a World Cup hangover there, but I'll go with a 7. I'll go with a solid 7 just because I know that we have yet to have a manager's going to be taking over permanently. Tuca's going to be the interim. I know we have a long time to go before we really start thinking about the next World Cup. I think this is really an opportunity, not just for the young guys, but for all the players who are called up to really, you know, put their foot down, to really, you know, make a name for themselves in this new World Cup cycle. So I'm going to go with the 7. And I think this is also a perfect setup for a lot of these guys. I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, a lot of these guys are under the age of 25. We even have a few who are under the age of 20. So once again, I'll stick with the 7. I think it's a good opportunity. It's not... Obviously, it's not a World Cup qualifier. It's not a CONCACAF Nations League, which we're eventually going to have to figure out and talk about whenever that emerges for Mexico. But I think it's still something that I'm looking forward to. I think a lot of Mexico fans are probably a little excited to see a lot of those younger players.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think, you know, when you look at it, like, oh, okay, it's a FIFA. I mean, all the national teams are playing because of the Nations Cup, I think, in Europe, and it's a FIFA date. So we have a combination of a lot of youngsters coming in. On Twitter, let's see, Carlos Fugazi, friend of the show, less than usual if there was a permanent coach watching them closely. Otro gallo cantaría, he says. Brian, a normal friendly 6, but it's a rivalry, so 8. And I think that's what people are forgetting. You know, we're playing against the U.S., you know, them coming back, rebuilding, another 4-year cycle. It's like we haven't heard that much buzz about it. But when Mexico's playing there against the U.S., you're going to want them to win, you know, when they sit on the field.
It's not. I mean, I am 100% like one of those Mexican national team fans. Whenever I see a Mexico versus USA game, it could be like in tennis. And I'm like, oh, my God, I get like heart palpitations. I get like nervous. I'm like, come on, Mexico, you have to beat the U.S. But like, I don't know. This game, it doesn't have the same spark. It doesn't.
But I think
for
that's
obvious reasons, they're bringing in some young guys too. And you look at their roster, it's clearly that they're and we've known this for a while, that they're going through a transitionary period as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if it's going to be, I mean, you're going to see people really, really hype up the game. I don't think it's really be that intense. A lot of these younger guys too, they aren't thinking like, oh my God, we really have to beat the U.S. A lot of these young guys are thinking, oh my God, I've been called up to El3. I really need to make a name for myself. So
yeah, but U.S. beats Mexico next week. And,
you know what? You know,
it starts. You can't lose against your rival, no matter what or what it is. You can't lose against your rival. That's it.
I don't know.
I'm expecting them to win. We have. You know, they're bringing youngsters also. I feel that we have the better talent. Yeah, let's start the little type of pressure. If they lose, they lose. No big deal. But let's get that. I expect a win against Uruguay. I don't expect a win. They do well. The youngsters come in, but against a rival, you beat them every time. That's how sports go.
I just don't care about the scores in these games. To be honest, to be perfectly honest, I don't care about the scores. I just want to see something from the younger guys. If Mexico loses to the United States, whatever. Mexico went to the World Cup. The U.S. didn't. I mean, it's just like I'm not that bothered about what the result is like. I'm just really keeping an eye on how the younger kids do, and I'm really hoping that Tuca does give them an opportunity. And I think a lot of people are worried with Tuca, thinking like, oh, he's the guy who doesn't really focus on young talent, really doesn't focus on younger players, but he doesn't have anything to really lose in these games. They are still friendlies nonetheless, so maybe he will be more willing to experiment and to try some of those younger guys, as opposed to with Tigres, which he would probably start. I don't even know how many of these guys he would actually start if they're involved with Tigres.
All right. Well, the list officially came out. Let's see what's going on the chat. Saying hello to everybody that's there. The GOAT main, Louis, Cari Torres, our friend, Abraham Felipe, talking about Lainez and Lozano. Our friend Sergio Tristan, who was always there. Just kind of have a talk. If you are not on the chat on live, get on it right now and you can ask us some questions and we'll try to get the commentary. Well, obviously the list came out during the week. The news of Tuca Ferretti was officially finalized, I think around on Tuesday. And many people, I'm sorry, a week and a half ago, and many people were already talking. All right, interim, how many games? Looks like it's just going to be for right now. Just the FIFA friendlies that are coming up in September, and then the list came out. So right off the bat, Guillermo Ochoa, Hugo Gonzalez, and Hiran Lahud from Tijuana, which are the keepers. Defenders, Carlos Salcedo, Osvaldo Alanis, Edson Alvarez, Jesus Gallardo, Jose Abella, Luis Rodriguez, Jesus Angulo, Gerardo Arteaga. From Santos, lots of the Santos guys there in the defense. From the midfield, Jonathan Dos Santos, who had a great goal over the past weekend. Roberto Alvarado, another great performance. Diego Lainez, Jonathan Gonzalez, Orbelín Pineda, Víctor Guzmán, Eric Aguirre, Eric Gutierrez, and finally gets the call up Mr. Elias Hernandez. And up front, Rodolfo Pizarro, Irving Lozano, Raúl Jiménez, Ángel Saldívar, and Alan Pulido. You look at the list and you're kind of going down when you're reading when it came out. First impressions, you satisfied, Cesar, coming out? I mean, now we start analyzing what it is, but you're like, this is actually a pretty good list. And
I think we all wanted this, right? I think a lot of people are really excited about some of that younger talent that Mexico has. I think a lot of people are really excited about, talk about the transitionary period. Mexico does need to go through a transitionary period right now, especially when you look at some of the older guys, when you're looking at Herrera, when you look at Guardado, when you look at Chicharito. Those guys can still be involved in the next World Cup. But regardless of whether they're a starter for Mexico, regardless of whether they're backups for Mexico, you do want to see other guys. You want to see other younger talent making their way through, perhaps going to Europe, really really stepping up, whether it be for club or country. And I'm glad that, and I don't think it was just a Tuca thing. I think a lot of people were just like, wow, look at Tuca. He selected all these younger guys. It's not a Tuca thing. I think it's more so a federation thing that's been looking forward. And I'm glad that a lot of these guys are being given an opportunity. So once again, you have 15 players under the age of 25, 6 players that are either 20 or younger. So I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited, and I do hope that they are going to be given minutes, because remember, there are still a number of players who are experienced, who have had a number of appearances for the national team, who are a part of this roster. So as much as I like a Jonathan Dos Santos, I'd prefer to see a Jonathan Dos Santos on the bench and maybe see someone like Roberto Alvarado in his spot. So I think
we can throw in like a bunch of young guys, starting level. You have to have a good, a good mix of players that have already played. Even Jonathan Dos Santos is still fairly new to the national team. I mean, how many minutes does he really have? And I think it's that type. It's like, okay, let's give him minutes. He's scoring. He's playing. He's not injured for once, and he's available. But I mean, that's when you look at, obviously bringing the keepers, right? You're not going to bring in a Chuy Corona just for him to be even though if the World Cup was coming up, I mean, there'd be the ones You know, if it was next year, you know, you keep this. So I think that at that point I understand, but you still have to have the relationship that like Guillermo Ochoa is going to have with these youngsters. You
No,
know,
true.
you have to have that the players, and I think Tuca said it in a press conference yesterday or today. He said you got to have those veterans to start helping shaping and how things go.
No, I agree.
And,
I agree 100%. Like I think that you do need to have those veterans there to, you know, to kind of guide these players. And especially once again, whether you call these partidos boleros or not, that game against Uruguay, it's not one to be taken lightly. When you look at the roster that Uruguay has, when you look that Godin's going to be there, Suat is going to be there, Carlos Sanchez. I mean, they've got a stack. This is a World Cup quarterfinalist that Mexico is going up against. So I do think that that game shouldn't be taken lightly. At the same time, though, I do hope that when I look at a Mexico starting 11, it's not going to be like, oh, it's going to be Jonathan Dos Santos, Osvaldo Alanis, Ayala. Like, and I just...
It's Alvarez on one side.
I do understand we need to have players like those, but I really hope that we see some of the younger names in there. I do really hope that we see some. Yeah.
I feel like the Uruguay, you can't go too young with the Uruguay. You have to have a good mix of players that you know, not too much to experiment. Again, I'd be interested to see what Tuca's gonna do, playing against a team that he knows that they're better, and Tuca comes in and starts strategizing on what to do. The good thing is that Uruguay is not going to score 4 or 5 goals. They never do. That's not who Uruguay is. You know, they'll score and that's the good thing. You know, no golean Uruguay. So yeah, at least we're going to have that. But it's interesting to see what to. I mean, Carlos Salcedo now is injured. So you know, for those who don't know, so that kind of. We're looking at who in the back line. I thought maybe Osvaldo Alanis and Salcedo in the center. Now we're going to start seeing, you know, it's going to be a completely new back line of defenders, because if you look at that, who is the most experienced out of, if you take Salcedo out, Alanis, Alvaro, Gallardo, Abella, Rodriguez, Angulo, Arteaga, that is a very, very, very rookie type of defense that we're going to be facing against. It gave me a little bit of a piece when Carlos Salcedo's out, but now that he's out, Osvaldo Alanis is the most experienced player.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I think that's. I mean, it is worrisome, but it's one of those things where it's just like, well, I guess you just keep telling yourself that the result isn't what matters. It's just you want to see something from young guys. You want to see something from the younger names who need to step up here for Mexico. So, I mean, like you said, I don't think Uruguay is going to really step up and try to go attack-minded. I think that game has a draw written all over it. Maybe it's something. I think the wild card game is more so the U.S. men's national team game, because I think in that game you have a lot of youngsters from the U.S. side who are probably pretty hungry to
and on both sides.
And
I think that's where I came down to. These youngsters are like, all right, I'm okay. Uruguay is going to be very conservative. I feel. Yeah, you can see a 0-0, maybe a 1-0 Uruguay. If we score, I see Uruguay scoring. So, but then that's where I go to the U.S. game. I think these youngsters are hungry. They want to show Tuca, and you know how Tuca is, especially the U.S. in 2015. He's going to want to make a statement there, and you know, it's what does he lose if he doesn't win or he doesn't do well on these?
I mean, he doesn't lose anything. He's
exactly.
Liga MX royalty at this point. I mean, I think if you read between the lines, if you really. I don't know, it doesn't take much to recognize that the FMF probably wanted, and I think a lot of Mexican national teams probably wanted him as a long-term option. I think people really wanted him to take charge of Al-Tri. He wouldn't be my first option. I think that would be a slight step back after Osorio, but he clearly has nothing to lose, and he had a fantastic time in the last time he took charge of Al-Tri after he won the CONCACAF Cup. And that one friendly after he won the CONCACAF Cup, what was it? Was that a game against Panama, I think? Was that a game against Panama and Toluca? I felt like that was almost like... Yeah, I forget.
I don't remember.
I forget what it was. I almost feel like that was just like a victory lap, like a victory tour for Tuca after beating the U.S. men's national team at the CONCACAF Cup. But I mean, he's clearly had a good time. He clearly has a connection to these players. I'm sure a lot of these guys have a good time on her, but yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting to see. Once again, I think if we're looking at the big talk point, the thing that stands out the most, and I think most people could recognize it is the young players. This in a new World Cup cycle, in a transition moment for Al-Tri, what most of these games represent is an opportunity for these young players. And once again, we didn't have to name, we all know them, and Eric Aguirre, Jesus Angulo, Arteaga, Alvarado, Jonathan Gonzalez, Diego Lainez, of course. And it still blows my mind that a kid who was born in the year 2000 is going to be part of Al-Tri. But I think it's all about the youth. It's all about the youth.
When you're looking at this list, Cesar, was there any kind of names you're just like, like really? Like, that kind of stood out for you. It was kind of like, all right, why or who, or I guess what were some reasons as to why? I mean, the first thing that kind of comes up is Alan Pulido.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the argument you can make with Pulido is that there is a serious depth problem for El Tri when it comes to an out-and-out striker. I'm not talking about somebody who can play a little bit more in the wing, but just an out-and-out strike position. I don't think Pulido is ever going to be a true starting national team option for El Tri. This is a guy. I mean, it's not. I feel like sometimes when we think about Pulido, we think about the Pulido that we saw with Tigres, the guy who scored what was it, like a handful of goals in his when he first was getting started with El Tri. But this guy's now, I'm looking at right here, he's 27, I think. No, he's 27. So yeah, I think people are a little worried, but it's just another out-and-out striker and someone with a little bit more experience too. At least I don't want to say with El Tri, but
it's funny how fast he grew up. Like,
yeah,
we remember the youngster guy. All right, this is another youngster that comes in with Tigres, all of that, and then he scored. I think it was against Korea in San Diego. It was his first game, if I believe so. Maybe 2 goals or something like that.
It was one of those January games that he.
Yeah, January games where he comes in and this guy scored on his debut, and then all the talks, then going to Europe and going to Greece, and then it felt just kind of like a little bit of the celebrityness kind of hit Pulido, and
I think so. I think you can kind of sense that when you go onto his Instagram account too.
Yeah. Then you had the whole kidnapping thing, and that was unfortunate. It's kind of crazy, but that's why I was just kind of like, okay. I mean,
honestly,
the only a lot better maybe trophies. If you're gonna throw in a Pulido,
with any kind of made it. With any kind of call up, everyone's gonna have their complaints. Everyone's gonna always have, like, no matter who's in charge, there's never ever going to be a perfect call up for any Mexican national team. No one's gonna have a consensus and be like, yes, this is the perfect call up. There's always gonna be like little things that people have little problems with. Honestly, the problem that I have, if I had to pick a problem, it isn't the. I would say I wish that some of the European-based guys would have also been given a little bit of a break. I know there's also people are saying, oh yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, you do have to have some experienced names out there, some veterans who help incorporate some of the younger guys. But I don't know, maybe like an Alanis who was still trying to like make his name out there in the second division. Say what you will about the second.
I honestly, the FMF had to give the team 21 days in advance. When the team announces, he wasn't even part of that team in the second division. So I think that was like, hey, you're not going to do anything. Come. Then he got signed over. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you on that.
Or like a Jimenez. Like I know
there's nothing wrong with taking him. This is the guy that we're hoping for. This is the guy that needs to be a part of the team, and this is the guy that needs he's our forward that's supposed to replace Chicharito and Oribe Peralta and all that. He has to come. I'm with you on the fact that you can give him some change, but at the same time, I wanted to see our captain. I wanted him to be a part of it. For example, Guardado. I know he's doing great things. He had a great game over the weekend, but I would like to see the captain of the national team start looking at these youngsters and how much leadership can this guy bring, because who's going to be the captain of this team? Ochoa?
I mean, I think Ochoa will probably get a start in one of the games, and I think in that game that he does start, he'll probably get the captain's armband.
I mean, other than that, who's...
I think I feel like there was a situation which Ayala has worn the captain's armband once. It could go to Jonathan Dos Santos.
Jonathan Dos Santos is a captain.
Raul
Jimenez.
I would say Raul Jimenez would be the one.
I think it's gonna be Ochoa. It's gotta be Ochoa.
I think it's gonna be Ochoa. I think Jimenez is definitely up there too. I mean, this is a guy who has like 60 plus appearances for three. So I think whether it be Ochoa, whether it be Jimenez, or even just I don't know. Ayala wouldn't be the worst captain. I think,
That's what we're looking at. It's like that's what I meant about experience. I was a little bit kind of questioning maybe Tecatito not being there, because these are the guys that I want to see in the World Cup. I get the Herreras, I get the Layuns, the Chicharitos, the Carlos Velas, those types. They're not going to be there. This is more of an experimental. Let's get to youth, but at least let's get everybody who we're looking for in the national in the World Cup, and maybe one game, maybe not. And so I would like to see Tecatito, there, and Raul, Tecatito up front, Chucky Lozano. Like, this is let's start getting these guys plenty of time. The rotaciones era is over. Let's solidify our forward starting now.
But what's
That's what I like to
the
see.
next big tournament? The next big thing Mexico has to look forward to is the Gold Cup next summer. But like, so give those honestly, give those European guys like give them the rest of the year off. To be honest, if it were up to me, if I was in charge, just save the rest of 2018 for incorporating the younger guys, give them opportunities. Let's see who really stands out, and then yeah, maybe once 2019 rolls around, then we start bringing back some of those European-based guys. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I have no, especially when I mean we all know how busy the Mexican national team is. I've said it before. I'm pretty sure they're the most busy national team in the world. I would not, just with the amount of games that they have to take part in.
I don't know. I think we're looking at like give them a break. Okay, national teams are doing it too. It's like everyone. The FIFA dates are for that. If it was a non-FIFA date.
Yeah.
Okay. If it was one of those partidos that the U.S. and the U.S. I'll give it to that. But this is a FIFA day. National teams are flying back and forth from the pond or going across.
Doesn't mean we have to do it either. The World
Cup. But at least the players that are going to be there, like I said, I guess I get Layun and all them. But I think if they asked, hey, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't know how many did, how many didn't. We know maybe Chicharito. We know maybe Jimenez was or some like that are there. But even Herrera, it's like. We're looking at players that are going to be there in the 4 years. So,
but you see really quickly, with with Ochoa, the complaint that he made. I mean, he didn't necessarily make that complaint, but he retweeted that one post from like the what was it? It was like some sort of players union saying that like complaining about players not giving much of a break after the World Cup. They only had what I think Ochoa had maybe less than 2 weeks between the end of the World Cup and him starting his season with standard leave. So and then when you see him getting called up till 3, I bet there's a part of him that's a little bothered. I bet 100%
he's asked not to be called before.
Yeah, no, but I bet, but like when you ask not to be called before, you see the reaction that people have.
I guarantee that he said, "Yep, I'm in," because he's still, there's still some markets available in Europe and that could see him.
Yeah,
and he wants to be transferred and tries to get out of there. So it's kind of like, yeah, so many breaks. Okay, yeah, definitely get me in the spotlight somewhere so I can get out of this team. And thank God he didn't win the World Cup because he would have only had 3 days. Apparently. Some of maybe the U.S. players are going, it's okay. I want to have that problem of going to the World Cup and then not having any vacations, and we'll see how that is. Cesar, any players from Liga MX that you wish were kind of on this list, maybe given some time?
I mean, honestly, I'm not.
A Gallito, maybe.
Yeah, but I don't. I mean, if we're looking towards a future, I'm not sure if Gallito is that player. Maybe as a defensive midfielder, maybe you can make the argument that he could potentially be there for a little bit longer, especially when you saw someone like Rafa still being highly relevant in that defensive midfield position. I would say maybe like someone like a Cesar Montes if you're looking towards the future, but I mean maybe we're a little past the hype for Cesar Montes. Pizarro, maybe if we're looking at another option right there. And Aquino maybe, but also Aquino isn't. I'm not entirely sure if Mexico really needs to look towards him, especially since they have a wealth of wingers. So I don't know. I think that's a good question right there. I think I would have to look at a list of some of the players because to be honest, a lot didn't come to mind. I know a lot of people are saying Chofis, but those people who are saying Chofis are probably Chivas fans, to be honest.
True. No, yeah. But I mean, Chofis keeps at least doing. I would say between Pulido and Chofis, I would go with Chofis.
He's inconsistent, and also Jace is on the chat, and that just made my day.
I was just about to say that, Mr. Jason Markowitz, Soccer Mexicana, on the chat. What time is it? Where is he at? He's in.
He's in Kuala Lumpur.
Kuala Lumpur. Jason, what time is it over there? If you don't know, he's on the chat, so this is the time for you to ask what's going on. Saying hello. You know what, Jason? I don't know if you should be on here because the time that you took a break from Mexican soccer, your Cruz Azul have been undefeated. So if they lose this weekend, I'm going to blame it all on you.
I think that's the only reason Jason jumped back. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to wait a few more weeks, see how much better they're doing. He's like, oh, they're killing it? Yeah, let's do this. I'm going to jump back on.
Tuesday morning, 10:30 a.m. where Jason's at. All right. Nice. You're already on Tuesday. Great.
Much love to Jason out there.
All right. Let's see. Mr. World Cup, Mexico World Cup, since it's 4 years from the World Cup, he's like, I'm just going to run a little later. So he should be coming on, he said.
He has the right idea. Take 2018 off, come back in 2019. Tom has
Question:
the right idea.
Is there really somebody on Twitter named Mexico Gold Cup? Because I heard that
I saw someone actually literally tweet that to Tom, saying like, Tom, like my Twitter username was inspired by you. So like,
Mexico Gold Cup.
I should be. I want to be. I want to be Mexico to a long tournament. I'm gonna change my username to that. Mexico to a long tournament. That's how I'm gonna do it.
Mexico Copa America. All right. Well, enough. I mean, we talked a lot about the roster. We talked on who's who's there, who's not. Tuca Ferretti finally, lots of things that he's kind of coming out now. And one of the big news stories that came out today with the federation, he's there. Man, I haven't seen Tuca wear so much like Mexico clothing. Like he was all Adidas out, kind of like me. But in the press conference, having fun talking to all the media. But one of the things that he said was, when they asked him about the national team, if he was ever going to take it, he did say that, I have a contract with Tigres. It's 3 years. And I would never do that to Tigres for all they've given me. I wouldn't, what's the word that he used? I wouldn't, and I'm trying to figure it out, but it was like, I wouldn't do that thing to Tigres, all the things that they've done.
I think the word that a lot of us been using in Liga MX English, Ultra English, has just been betray, right? He wouldn't betray them.
Sorry, I was like, I'm trying to figure it out. Like I want to betray them. I'm like, well, it's not really a betrayal. I mean, it happens all the time. Contracts are renegotiated. Like it can become. He's saying like it's not. And it's kind of like I'm kind of taking it like, Tigres, it's up to you. Can you do something about that contract? Then I'm here. I feel that's what's going to happen.
I think it's also a win-win for Tuca, because also let's not forget that he's got a nice thing going over there with Tigres. I mean, it's the most dominant Liga MX team in recent years. He gets incredible signings. Probably lives a nice lifestyle out there in Monterrey. I remember there's like some clip that went viral with him, that he crashed his Ferrari. I think that says plenty, that Tuca driving around a Ferrari and like Monterrey probably having the time of his life out there. So it's not as if he is a manager of someone who is like I don't know, like a Puebla or Lobos Bob. He's clearly doing very, very, very well out there with Tigres. So and you do have to, I guess with Tuca, one thing that you have to appreciate with him is how blunt he is. How he isn't subtle. He doesn't try to beat around the bush. It seems like for the most part he is quite honest, and what he said earlier today did seem quite honest. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's using it to his advantage, like you said with Tigres, maybe saying like, "Ooh, maybe I can make something happen. We'll see what happens in the future." But I don't know. I think he doesn't want to betray that Tigres side, and no matter what spot Tigres are in right now in the league table, they're probably going to make it to the playoffs. Whether they're going to finish in 8th place or finish in 2nd place, they're going to make it into the top 8, and they're going to be a title contender. And then it'll once again be another year in which somehow Tigres win the title in the Apertura, but for some odd reason, not the Clausura. So I think Tuca's got a fantastic thing going there, and I don't know. I don't blame him for saying what he did.
And look at that! All of a sudden, Tom and Amy just jumped on the show.
Did someone not like my thoughts about Tuca? Just like Amy and
you
Tom.
Know what? That's it. That's it. We're gonna stop you right now. He's like,
what's going on here?
Tom and Amy.
I was gonna make a joke right now, like, oh, Tom is injured, so I'm like that emergency person they call that wasn't part of the original squad, but I'm in here. But now Tom jumped on.
Do you want me to go?
It's all right.
Nah, Tom, get out of here. No, get out of here, man.
All right, well, welcome, Mr. Tom and Amy. Now that we don't get to hear your presence, Amy, we're talking all about Tuca. You just wrote a great article for Mix Nation about what's happening with Tuca. So tell us a little bit your thoughts, especially today. I've been messaging back and forth. Get ready for the Tuca session. Get ready for Tuca and the national team. I feel he's coming. Maybe not this year, but I feel getting closer to Tuca with the national team.
Yeah, I don't like when you're right, but I feel like you're going to be right again with this. I just feel okay. I've been saying this for like a few. I think I said this the last time I was on with Cesar and Adriana. I feel like it's like that relationship metaphor right now. Like Tuca has like this really stable relationship with Tigres right now that he doesn't want to let it go for something that's not stable. Like I wrote about it a little bit in the article. It's like if you count Juan Carlos, it's 9 different coaches in the span of 12 different coaches in a span of 9 years. Like, of course he doesn't want to. And of course he's like, I'd rather just stay somewhere where I know I kind of have like a solid foundation instead of, hopping into something that might get rid of me in like a year or less than that because they don't like the results that I have. So I think there was so much validity in what he was saying about his reasoning for not taking it full time. That
he's 64. He's looking for something a little bit more real. He's past that like experimental age in his 50s.
Time to settle down.
Time to settle down.
Those crazy 50s.
All right, isn't really 12 national team coaches? I saw you use that, but the interims don't count. It's like everyone's been. How many actual national coaches? 2010.
Well, it was what? It was like 4 in like the month in 2014, right? It was like
Aguirre. Then after Aguirre, then I'm who did they show for 2011? You got Chepo. Chepo got fired. Then Piojo came in. That's 3 official ones, right? Or right before that there was Rey Midas.
Such a whirlwind of emotion, and it was such a dark time in my life.
4. Then 2014 happened. They didn't find anybody, and then it's 5. Like there's some interims, I get it, but
still, you gotta count the hookups. You gotta count the flings.
Well, those are the guys that they needed to coach. And they're Mr. Tom Marshall.
I love this metaphor.
You translated some things that are happening with Mr. Tuca Ferretti. But especially the press conference today that he sparked. Anything come out of that press conference that he's kind of being a little more honest, just like Cesar said?
No, I thought it was a really good press conference. I thought, even from the first question, he's like, I think the TV Azteca journalist asked like about 4 questions in one. And he was like, wait up, slow down. Like, what's going on here? And he's like, please, everybody, only 1 question each. And that just shows the level of authority that Tuca Ferretti has, the confidence, the experience that he has dealing specifically with the Mexican press. And I think, that's one of the reasons why, that's one of his strengths as a permanent candidate. And apart from that, I thought it was really good. I thought what he said about the younger players, about, what's the point in calling up the same old, we know what they can do, the same old players. And it's like, fair enough. I liked it. I think he's right. I think these last 3 games of the year were a chance for the younger players to make the mark, to lay down the challenge to the older ones that, there's a new generation coming through. So, but yeah, I mean, I think the big talking point is Tuca going to be, is there any chance he can be permanent manager? And the message for me is very clear. Tigres would have to kind of push that. Tuca's not going to push his way out of Tigres. If Tigres said to him, Tuca, you're going there, then he'd go there, because that's how he's always dealt with his directors and the people in charge. He's very much like, I think he said before, like, I'm a foot soldier, I just follow the lead. And you remember, I think it was actually when he was playing strong teams in the Conca Champions, he was like, my directors want the Conca Champions, okay, I'm going to play decent teams now. So I think it's the same. I think if Tigres and the Federation come to an agreement, then I think the door's still slightly open, to be honest.
At least in a managerial sense, not what we've seen on the field, but it'd be like Arsene Wenger leaving like Arsenal. I just can't imagine a Tigres without Tuca. It would just be so strange just to see another manager.
You have to use that metaphor right now. I'm still grieving. It's true. And you have to think about it for kind of going off of what Cesar said, though. It's like he said it himself, like if I finish out this contract, I will have been there for 11 years. Like, for him, it would probably be, aside from the instability of the Federation, like it would probably be like, just feel odd for him to have to leave something that's given him so much, or that's invested so much in him too. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The only thing I'd say about the Federation is I think that with Osorio, I thought we saw a changed attitude. I think Guillermo Cantú is a bit different than previous sporting directors, whatever his title is. Dennis de Closet, I think they're smart people, to be honest, and I think they've got that vision. And I think we saw with Juan Carlos Osorio, people can judge whether it worked or didn't work out, but they were there were obvious occasions during that cycle where even people on this show were saying we need to get rid of him. And the 7-0 against Chile, obviously that was the big one.
They're not here on the show anymore, FYI.
but they didn't do it. They kept with him after a historic result like that against Chile to keep with the manager. I thought that showed that the federation may have matured now and may just absolutely know that they can't be doing what they did a few years ago.
I think that's where I go back to my point. I don't think it's the same federation from a while back. The people have changed, and I go back to it. People are saying 12. It's been 12 coaches or whatever. It really only hasn't been 4 since 2010 in 8 years. Torre, Chepo, Vucetich, which was 1 game, Herrera, and Juan Carlos Osorio. It wasn't the managers were there was interns that are there, and the fact that they wanted Juan Carlos Osorio to stay, which many people didn't want him. But I was for that to keep going with those cycles. I feel it's a changed federation. No, we don't get paid by the FMF if anybody thinks that we do or how it is, and we're giving them props. But I feel that at least right people are in it right now in order for them to take. You can talk about you can talk about all the money, but at least coaching changes. And I think this is why they're betting on Tuca Ferretti. It's a safe bet. Everybody wants it. Players, the fans, and who really is out there that's going to leave their post to come to Mexico and kind of be, out there. Especially look at Juan Carlos Osorio right now. Signed officially with Paraguay. Paraguay? That's who he left the national team with to go to Paraguay.
But if we're speaking personally, though, I don't want Tuca taking charge of Mexico as a long-term project. I think Mexico is past someone like Tuca. I think Tuca is the safe option. And I recognize why you'd want someone like Tuca as the safe option. As Tom discussed, this is someone who also knows how to deal with the media right there. Someone who is well-versed in the Mexican game, someone who's been there for quite some time, someone who's taken charge of the most dominant Liga MX team in recent years. But Tuca's the safe option. I don't want the safe option. I want someone a little bit more different. And although I recognize why they want Ferretti to take charge for the long term, or at the very least as an interim, personally speaking, I do hope that he is just going to be an interim and that Mexico eventually tries something a little different other than Tuca.
And I think that's where it's going to come down to, that I don't believe that there's that many options, to be honest, with the players, people that have been already kind of linked to the national team. Look who we ended up with, is Juan Carlos Osorio. Before, it worked for yes or no wherever we got at. We didn't do any worse than we did in other World Cups. But at the same time, when Juan Carlos Osorio, the news came out, we're like, that's it? That's who we have? Who is this guy? What has he done? And I feel that's why they're betting on Tuca Ferretti, and I ultimately think that it's going to get done. But we will see. All right.
I just think the other thing with Tuca, though, one thing I don't like is, obviously he's said so many times he doesn't want the job that it's kind of like, say you want the job. I mean, say you would love to do it if you didn't have. I don't know.
I think he did kind of. He
kind of said, yeah, he kind of said that, right? He kind of said if he didn't have.
He said he'd sit down at the table.
Oh yeah, well, there's a first, and I kept going back. We said that in the Patreon podcast. It's like, here's Tuca, oh, he's getting with Moleros and all this other stuff, but here comes friendlies and interims. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll go ahead and be a part of that, and that's how I feel.
I think that's a reflection of how bad it is. That's what I said. That's what we said earlier. Like it's a reflection of how bad it is that they're like, please help us out. And he's just like, yeah, I'll do it. But it's,
from my understanding, it was him who raised his hand saying, I'll be interim, before any news came out that the FMF was looking for.
Because he already knew they were going to ask him. He was already like, you know what, I'll save you the trouble. Yeah, if you need. That's
what I'm saying. Like I feel he really wants to do it. I think he's putting it on Tigres, saying this is really what I want. And Ginak's about, he's like, all right, you're done. Tigres is not who it is anymore. All right, he's done with it. He's ready to go to the national team.
So if we're going back to Amy's relationship metaphor, we're saying that FMF is just telling Tuca, like, tell me you love me, and Tuca's like, I don't know, maybe I'll love you. We'll see what's going on. I got a good thing going on over here in Monterrey.
It's so much clearer when you use that metaphor. I feel like it clears it up. Like,
I love all your metaphors in relationships, because when you wrote on Twitter, Amy, about your ex, with Paraguay, it's like, it's all right, it's Paraguay.
It's because with Juan Carlos, it was like, all right, we don't know what we're getting into, but we're going to try it out. And then the FMF, this is a metaphor, okay? The FMF ended up falling in love with him, and he's like, you know what? you're just not where I am right now. Like it's not me.
You got too much baggage.
Yes, you have way too much baggage. I've seen your track record, and I feel like we should end
So
it now.
broke up. Now it's up with the ugly chick with Paraguay. I'll say it.
No.
Yes. Didn't make the World Cup. Now he's trying to rebuild. I'm actually not hurt by it. It's cool. You can go to Paraguay. If Juan Carlos Osorio gets a Twitter account, it's over. Like that's it. Like if Paraguay all of a sudden, you need a Twitter, and he starts tweeting after all these years of those social media with the national team, that's when I'll be like, you know what? You're not worth it, Juan Carlos. You never would. We'll see how it goes. All right. Any last thoughts on the national team? Mr. Tom will be there. I will be there also in Houston. They're giving you guys all and everything that's happening there. And then Nashville against the United States. I think, Amy, you're flying out there. Tom, I know, is definitely there. So it should be fun. Cesar?
I guess I looked at my calendar. I went to Texas like a week or two too early. So I'll be watching from San Diego.
So excited.
So that should be fun. But any last thoughts on the national team guys?
I mean, yeah, I think you got to look at the other options as well. Like if we know Tuca's situation, I think it's unlikely that he's going to take over because it's just been so consistent saying what he said. And I can't imagine Tigres are going to want to let him go. But look at the other options. What's going on with Peckerman with Colombia? That could be an option. Yeah. He's had a bit of a rough past in Mexico because he went to the TAS. The CAS. He took Tigres to the CAS.
I think it all depends whether it's in English or Spanish. We talk about TAS or CAS, right?
Yeah. I think in English it's CAS. But then you got San Pauli there. You got to weigh up all these things, and when's the time to strike? When's the time to wait? It's easy to say. The federation don't know what he wants to do, but it's difficult. It's a really difficult period this now because all managers basically, most of them are in work. You've got the kind of fallout from the World Cup. So you've got someone like Sampaoli who obviously his reputation after the World Cup has been shattered. But if this would have happened 3 years ago with Sampaoli, after he's won the Copa America with Chile, everyone would have been like, this is absolutely amazing for Mexico. So I don't know. We just have to, I think we have to keep looking at the different candidates as well and see what comes out there. Yeah. Rather than just focus on Tuca, because I feel like all the press at the minute is like Tuca.
I feel like other names will come up and you will start seeing it. I'm interested to see how many games Tuca is going to coach, because if he's got the national team September, we hear some new dates for November, a possible Europe date, those games in Monterrey. So we'll see. There's plenty of games for Tuca to get settled in there if he's going to be that person. Well, we'll see. Really quick, since we're not going to have a chance to chat with you all before the game against Uruguay, predictions on what do you think happens during that game? Cesar says, obviously the score doesn't matter, but what do you guys see?
I don't care about the score, but I'll predict a 1-1 draw between Mexico and Uruguay, and I'm just hoping that we see at least a handful of youngsters in that game, and I imagine maybe we'll save some more of the younger players for the U.S. men's national team game, but I could see that as a draw. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I see it as a draw, or especially because Luis Suarez is there and he hasn't been there the last couple of times they faced off. I think maybe at most like a 2-1 loss. I'd go for the draw. I'd prefer the draw, but I say maybe a loss. And I, on the other hand, would prefer to see. I would prefer to see Jonah in this game instead of the game against the U.S. because I feel like the U.S. could be more of like a young player clash, and that would be the opportunity to give them that chance, because it's not necessarily an important game, but it kind of is, because this is the first time U.S. and Mexico face off, because the U.S. didn't go to the World Cup and stuff. So I'd like to see more of the younger players get an opportunity there. But for the Uruguay game, I say 1-1 or a possible 2-1 loss.
Yeah, I think Uruguay 1-0, just because they've got a strong squad and they've got a big tournament next summer, the Copa America, and they've got so many problems with the federation, with FIFA and CONMEBOL taking them over. I think the players want to prove something, and I think that this is their only game, I think, in this FIFA break as well. So after this game, they'll all fly off, so they can give it everything for one game, and they've got a really nice rest before heading back to the club teams.
All right. I'm going with the 2-0 loss. Not very. I think it's going to be a great experience for the youngsters. I think it's going to be good. No, not even a goal. I really don't see. I don't see what mid is going to penetrate through there. As much as Chucky and Raul will be there, I'm going to go, and I think it's going to be a good game. I think we're going to come out satisfied somehow that these youngsters did well against a team. I'm looking at that defense, and again, Osvaldo Alanis is the veteran here, looking at that. So, but I feel like we're going to come out with something good. But I think 1-0, maybe one goal at the half, and Mexico trying with a lot, just not be able to score in, and then Suarez does Suarez thing. I'm going to go with 2-0. And then I feel the Nashville game, I think that we're going to see. I think it's going to be exciting. I think Mexico pulls off a win. And these guys, although it's a rivalry, although it's a mean game, you still want to show up on these things. So, but again, 2-0, I think we'll be fine. All right. Wait.
Why is JP Santoyo asking who I'm rooting for the U.S.-Mexico game? So what have you done? You see what you've done?
Anything. No.
You know, US fan.
Oh my goodness! No, why are you guys doing this to me? We're supposed to be friends, everybody.
Is it not what?
I thought this is the American show. Is this the
Amy's American?
Sorry, guys.
Is that what it would be called? The American soccer show?
The Mexican American soccer show.
The Mexican American.
Who are y'all rooting for? Mexico, of course, because we're Mexican Americans. What Mexican American roots for the U.S. men's national team?
Amy. There's a lot. No, everybody. Amy does not. Amy does not root for the U.S. No, I just asked you on the Patreon podcast straight out, and you wouldn't answer.
We went back and we checked, and you asked like 3 questions at the same time, and I was trying to answer. No,
you just brought this back up. You brought it back up. All right.
Do not root for the U.S. There.
All right. I root for the U.S. in the Olympics. I was like, go Phelps. Everything else other than soccer I don't mind it. Man. So we'll see.
Recent events make me hesitant to root for the U.S. and things.
All right. Let's jump into Liga MX. Is going to take a quick break. Wait, is he still on here? Do we still see Mr. Jason Markowitz? Can he come on? Should I give him the link to talk about Cruz Azul? So we can go there? No. All right. Fine. Huge surprise in the results this week. Querétaro beat Morelia. That wasn't a surprise, guys. I got that. That was all good. Puebla beat Monterrey. And probably the biggest surprise of it all, Atlas finally scoring a goal, even though they lost to Tigres. But it was, they were up 1-0. It's kind of we're going in that. Cruz Azul remains unbeaten, which I'm pretty sure everybody got Cruz Azul, beating Veracruz 4-1. But Liga MX, week 7?
Week 8, because we're now officially in the halfway point.
We're halfway
of the regular season.
Point. Cruz Azul is a real deal, right? You still have them, obviously in the Liguilla, now coming in, making sure that and here comes the pressure of Cruz Azul trying to win a championship as a super leader. But what are the biggest talking points to you halfway down this in the middle of the season, Tom?
Biggest talking points. I mean, you can't look really past Cruz Azul, to be honest. I mean, they've only given away 3 goals. I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal. I really, I mean, I know it's the obvious one, but that for me, that is the talking point. Aside from that, you look at the table and you see Querétaro and you think, are they a dark horse? Watching them against Morelia, Marcel Ruiz, really the last few weeks, I don't know. You don't want to get too excited, but I mean, it's hard not to get too excited about a 17-year-old playing like that.
Yeah.
And so I think definitely, Camilo Zambeso as well is hitting form, and we know when he hits form, he's one of the best forwards in the league. So I'd say those two, Atlas obviously a disaster. I think Atlas, Lobos, and Veracruz, I think we're seeing 3 clubs really struggling, to be honest. And I can't remember, 3 clubs struggling so much, regardless of points, just like, I don't know, just not being really in games. I mean, Atlas scored against Tigres, but when you look at how many shots Tigres had and how they dominated the game, and it's like, I think Pepe Hernandez was the goalkeeper of the week because he made so many saves, and it's like it's not great for Atlas. But Gerardo Espinosa just been let go, by the way. Atlas are going to have a new manager, so yeah, I'd say those three. I'd say the pitch at the Azteca is an embarrassment. I'd say, I don't know whether we're focusing more on refereeing decisions because we know that VAR's coming in, but I mean, I think the sooner VAR comes in, the better. And the main reason is that when you talk to people down here, just, people don't trust the refereeing, as in, like, a lot of people think the refs are corrupt, and that's not good. That's not good for the, for people having confidence in the league. And so I think when VAR comes in, we're not going to see, or hopefully we're not going to see as some of the ridiculous decisions, to be honest, that we saw last weekend, like a handball on the line. You should be able to see that, the ball going out just before a goal, when the linesman's right next to, or the assistant referee's right next to the play. I mean, you've got to see that.
Yeah, when I look at the Liga MX table, I mean, not to make early assumptions only at the halfway point in the season, but I think when you look at the top 5, I think those look like playoff-worthy teams. I'm still unsure about Querétaro. I don't know. I'm still unsure about the attack. I know Tom was just talking about San Vessel. I think San Vessel is an incredible striker, and I think he's really led them to some of the recent wins. You do have to mention, I mean, Querétaro has 3 wins in a row right now. I'm still not sure if he's going to be able to maintain that, if he'll be able to carry this side. Tigres, I mean, it looked like we were talking about for a while. It's like, are they crisis? Is there an issue with this team? But they've bounced back a little bit. They're back in the top 8, and I imagine they're going to continue to stay in the top 8. I'm also keeping an eye on Pachuca too. I think we were all a little worried about that Pachuca side, whether they're going to have some issues. Obviously, with someone like Keisuke Honda leaving the team, and even recently you have someone like Eric Gutierrez, leaving the team as well. So you wonder if they're going to get a win against Chivas. But I still think that this Pachuca side might be able to sneak into the top 8. And I think that you still have to keep an eye, of course, in that all those youth players that they have that could really step up for the team. So I like Pachuca, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were to sneak in the top 8. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess what stands out to me, like Tom said, that those teams at the bottom 3 are just, I mean, oh man, they're awful, man. it's just completely abysmal. It's just completely abysmal.
You look at Liga MX, and it's kind of funny how it is, because you have 3 horrible teams, then you have like 12 of them, 13. I mean, from second place at 16 points in Monterrey, all the way down Club América, Pumas, Santos, Querétaro, Tigres, Toluca, Monarcas, Pachuca. You're looking at teams that can have a bad week or 2 or 3, and they just are not convincing enough to be a contender. And we all know that Monterrey, we know that Club América can have great teams, but then all of a sudden they do something like, Club América loses to León, or Pumas finally is getting in there with, only 4 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. Santos on what's happening, and then Querétaro surprising. Tigres, you're looking at that team where we're like, what's in crisis? Toluca something does well. And that's where I feel Cruz Azul is just overpowering everybody, because everybody that's faced Cruz Azul has been on their downside. It hasn't been any like hot team ready to face. When Club América was winning, or when Monterrey or Tigres, it's, in that sense, there's Puebla, Guadalajara, León with 10 points. They get 2 wins. They're in the top 5. Obviously seeing what happens at those. So it's kind of very inconsistent, but I haven't seen great teams, except for Cruz Azul. And now comes the later stretch. At what point does Cruz Azul go? It's in the bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think Monterrey is second, and I've not been impressed by him. To be
That's
honest.
what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
America.
number 2.
I mean, watching them against Lobos WAP, 2-0 win. It's a good win, but you're not like, wow. Even Pumas, I'm completely not convinced by. Santos, I think, have done quite well. Obviously Querétaro, and Tigres are just doing the thing. Toluca. Now they've got Sambuesa back. I expect them to be, going a bit of a march. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Yeah. Just quickly about Pachuca. I watched them the other day, and Ayestaran, as a coach, obviously was assistant to Rafa Benitez. He's very organized teams, and you can see it. I mean, I watched it actually bought a ticket and went with a friend, and sat high up, and you could just see exactly the formations and how well coached that team is already after a couple of months under Ayestaran. And it's quite different than Pachuca played under Alonso. It's weird because Monterrey are going the other way as well under Alonso. You know, they're trying to play out the back a bit more, trying to keep possession, which they didn't under Mohamed, and now Pachuca are actually going. They're quite defensive. It was like a 4-5-1. You know, really compact, hitting on the break, and just basically, you know, waited for Chivas to mess up. It looks like they're going to get a midfielder in as well from Boca Juniors. Sebastian Perez, who's Colombian, did really well for Atlético Nacional. And I think he's obviously going to be in the mix to step in for Eric Gutierrez, because let's not forget, they just lost the captain and arguably the best player. So
yeah, and shout out to Pablo Lopez, the 20-year-old who stepped up recently too over the weekend, who got a goal for Pachuca too. So obviously, I think Pachuca do an excellent job of balancing that, because it's very difficult Liga MX of not only producing young talent but bringing in interesting foreign talent as well. So I think credit to them for helping create a player like that, who immediately, once again, just found a goal for them over the weekend.
Yeah, I would say though that, I mean, they've not reached the playoffs in the last 3, so there is pressure on them. I mean, the interesting thing for Pachuca, and I think, I don't know, we haven't got much time, but it's a wider discussion, because over the weekend I spoke to the sporting director Marco Garces, and he basically told me straight out, Eric Gutierrez, they didn't want to tell him to a Mexican team, but they could have got more money from a Mexican club, and the Mexican clubs interested in Eric Gutierrez, and it tells you a lot about the kind of player production, and basically what it tells me is let Gutierrez go basically out as a favor because they promised him it. You know, obviously the club don't want to lose him, but it's just shows how difficult it is for Mexican players. But Pachuca, for me, yeah, obviously I think the youth production, the number 1 in the country, maybe by a bit of a distance now. You know, Herrera, Lozano, and Gutierrez. I mean, this is historic what they're doing, to be honest, in the Mexican game. But Pachuca fans up there in Hidalgo, it doesn't mean anything to him, or it doesn't mean much to him if the team aren't making the playoffs. So I mean, that's the big challenge for Pachuca. Like Cesar says, that balance. And now, you know, 5 games without defeat, you know, it bodes well.
It's interesting how Liga MX is just crazy.
Well, I mean, I know I'm rambling here, but look at Atlas. They've got five players in the under-21s, and they've scored 1 goal, and they've got 2 points.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, you've got to praise Atlas because they produced these kids, they've thrown them in the team, and they've struggled a little bit. But they're not, and that's natural for young players. Maybe they've done it too quickly. I mean, I think that's probably the right way of looking at it. But I mean, like Cesar was saying then, it's difficult. It's not easy when you've got, you know, Cruz Azul, who basically don't produce any young players, and you know, they've got Roberto Alvarado, but he's just bought. I mean, he's got loads of games behind him. You know, it's almost cheating. You know what I mean? It's difficult in this league to produce massive young players and win.
All right. Also, one more thing. I'm just sneaking one more thing. If we're going to teams of good production, we have to bring up Santos Laguna too. And if we're going to tie this into the Mexican national once again, shout out to a club side that's able to produce like 2 young fullbacks that have now gotten a call up to national to produce an Angulo and an Arteaga right there, and who are 19 and 20, who are going to be part of the Mexican national team setups. That's pretty impressive. And also Navea too. Who's
100%. I think Santos are now, you know, probably number 2 in youth production. You know, unbelievable job they've done there.
All right. Well, great talks about youth. I think it's a theme of things that we're starting to see. You guys were worried about this new transition with you. We have plenty of youth. We'll see how that goes. All right, really quick. Mexicans abroad. Obviously, the story at PSV. Chucky Lozano, the worst actor in the history of Mexican national team, when he was being, it got cringy. Like, hey, so you're with the team? Yeah. What are you doing?
Guti's like, why are you wearing that outfit, man? He's like, I just finished the game. Okay.
This is what we wear now. We wear suits. But what's up with your sleeves, man? Can you fix them? Like, come on.
PSV in the back, just like, just tell me you're on the team. Just
can you tell me you're on the team? Like, I could just see the producer going, "Hey, come on, guys! Like, you can't just, hey, how's it going?" Like, that was the worst. But anyway, it was cool. It was cool the way they did it. Mexicans abroad, which you know, it's exciting to see another. I feel like PSV. You know, we should just name somewhere in Mexico something about PSV or do something. It's like the official. It's like the Fulham for the national United States, right? It's like a lot of players. It's like this PSV is ours, like and we're looking at that. We thought maybe Porto with so many Mexican players, but what they've done, I think 6 players, is amazing. And now we get to see them in the Champions League. So big news starting in September. PSV against Barcelona is the first game. So we get to see that with the Mexicans abroad. The Porto guys also, I think, got lucky. When talking to people that aren't, Mexico fans, are like, look at that Porto pot, and we're like, no,
what a difference in groups between the group that the PSV guys have and what Porto has. Like, my God, man,
Porto can make it into.
I think it's I don't know. I think it's
for us.
No, like I want when I saw it, it's like when I saw PSV's draw, I was like, dang it. But then my immediate second reaction was like, there we go. Like that's how he has to go into it. That's the 2 playoff games that they had, he did really well. He scored in both those legs.
Chucky.
So, yeah, Chucky. So I'm like, yeah, there we go. That's how it has to be. If he's gonna go into Champions League, with the way that he's been playing, like whatever, started with the bang. Go against
Barcelona, and
that's what I'm saying.
Game. That's be great. Yeah. And we'll see. They got Tottenham. Who's the 4th team that they have? I think it's
Inter Milan.
Yeah, it's PSV's on the bottom of that. When we're looking at that. But going with the Porto, lots of the Mexicans abroad also in Europa League. Miguel Ayun, Guardado, Ochoa, Diego Reyes. So a lot of Europa and Champions League. This is where I feel that our Mexicans abroad should be more championship teams, leagues, and what we're doing. Any news outside of the Champions League for Mexicans abroad?
Captain Guardado, a local rivalry, got the 1-0 win for Betis over Sevilla. Herrera scored a win for Porto. Shout out
Jimenez doing well.
Yeah, doing well. He got that terrible miss, but at least he got that start in that win over West Ham. But Chicharito was a late sub of that one. Shout out to Celta Vigo and Araujo for doing well out there, and
we're at the top of La Liga for about 10 seconds or like about 2 minutes before.
I mean, they'll be in 3rd place for another week or so, I assume. But I mean, shout out to them right now. That's really exciting. And then also
a big win too. I mean, it was against Atletico. So
yeah. And then also Reyes, he made his debut for Fenerbahce in a 3-2 loss as a defensive midfielder. I didn't see the game, but at least from what I saw on the stats and what I saw online, it looks like it didn't really have much of an impact. But the guy just showed up, so I think we got to give him a little space right there.
All right. Really quick. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, no. With PSV's draw, I just think it's exactly what it's all about. That's what we want to see. I mean, Eric Gutierrez signs for PSV. We're going to see, rather than him playing against, Santos, playing against Tijuana, we're going to see him playing against Messi and, Barca's midfield. I mean, and Pochettino's Tottenham. I mean, this is exactly what we want from the younger Mexican players. And same with Araujo. I mean, you come up against Diego Costa and Griezmann. That doesn't exist in Mexico. And to go over there and play with that confidence that he showed on the ball, I mean, what a performance that was from Néstor Araujo in the first few weeks in Spain. I mean, it's so very promising. Real shame about Salcedo though. To be honest. That was a real bummer. But I also heard as well there was another Mexican that was very close to signing for a Portuguese club. They couldn't, in the end, agree. They couldn't make an agreement between the clubs, but we almost saw another Mexican midfielder move to Europe as well. But unfortunately, like we know, like in the Gutierrez situation, where a lot of the time the Mexican club, it's basically goodwill that they let the player go. It didn't happen.
Who, Tom?
I can't see who. It's not a big name though. Not a big name. It would have been a nice. Would have been a nice move though, definitely.
His name's Cesar Hernandez. Chilling in
From what team, Tom?
I was trying to sell him.
And you failed, Tom.
Can you tell us the team?
No, the Portuguese team. It wasn't one of the big 3.
No, I'm talking about the Mexican team. Oh, Tom, if it's not here, where? All right. So we're looking ahead. Mexicans abroad and Europa League, Champions League, and everything on that. Really quick before we end, just running out of time. Amy, with the predictions, with our table, can you give us a little update on what is happening?
Yeah, so nobody moved in the standings in terms of like the placements. The fans are killing it every single time. Like, I almost want to influence my predictions on the fans ones because I'm like, maybe I'll start getting more points that way. But let me see here. I think they had 30. It was like a list. Let me go ahead and see here.
It goes the fans, Adriana.
The fans, Adriana, Cesar, you, me, and then Tom. But Tom's only at the end because of the way the placement was before, like in terms of points, right? Like if he gets more points than I do, him and I keep switching back and forth. But like I said last time, I'm just in this for the fun. And when I start getting up higher, then I'll be in it for the competition. But for right now,
right now the fans are Cruz Azul. Cesar is like your Monterrey. He's giving, no, Adriana's more like Monterrey.
Oh, man.
Oh yeah, because she'd be second, and then you got Cesar more of the America / I'll be the Querétaro. You don't know what's happening, but you're doing well, but then you're not. Tom and Amy are like Veracruz and Lobos Buap.
I'll be Lobos Buap.
Okay.
Start counting track of how many wolf calls Tom.
I'll be Veracruz because like everything's just all over the place for me. So yeah, that makes complete sense.
Fine. At least, okay, you can be Chivas. Fine, you can be Chivas. All right. All right, guys. Well,
make sure you pay your taxes.
At least I didn't say you're Atlas, right? I mean, Cook can't score, so we'll look at that. All right, guys. Thanks to all of you that are on the chat. Lots and lots of conversations. I was trying to scroll a couple times, and we only had to maybe delete one comment, which is a good thing for us at the chat.
My bad. I shouldn't have said
that. Jason Marquitz said hello, and then he left.
He said hello and then left.
He said hello, and he left, and he's out.
Because we said like Cruz Azul's streak is because he's been away, and then he was like, "Good point," and then like he really left. I was like, "Oh, I thought it was a joke."
All right. Well, we'll see. Lots of stuff that's coming from. We'll remind you guys, be part of our Patreon podcast this week. Mr. Tom Marshall is going to answer some questions, so we're going to actually put out, what do you want to ask Tom about the national team? Maybe some personal questions if you want on there. We have some time. He'll be answering them. And then we have a special guest next week for the United States matchup. We'll let you guys know. It's definitely a big name that's going to be part of the Patreon podcast for this week against the United States. And we'll give you guys some time. So definitely, if you're not part of the Patreon podcast, be a part of it every week.
They actually give you the reins on this one, guys. So
it should be a lot of fun. Amy and I and all the guests that come on. More info on the Twitter pin post that's there. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Safe trip on all your travels. Mr. Cesar, glad you're back from Austin. And Amy, thank you for jumping on the show. You're like, I want to jump in there. Cesar saying stuff about Tuca. Let me get in. And then...
He's had too much time on the show. Someone quiet him down.
All right, really quick trivia. What year was this?
1974.
Oh.
1842.
No, what's wrong with you guys? What year did we come out with this? I was trying to look back at all my shirts, and I'm like, I'll start wearing a shirt. So if you know,
it was a pop quiz at the end of class.
Pop quiz. What?
2028. 2029.
Oh, nice. Stop. All right. Send me your tweet at my handle or the Mexican Soccer Show if you know what year this shirt came out for the Mexican national team. No, Tom. No.
We don't talk about 1990, Tom.
1990 didn't exist.
We don't know. They said 99. I'm like, wait, what's wrong with 99? All right, Amy, you can say goodbye to everybody. Close us off.
Oh yeah, okay. Thank you for having me unexpectedly on the show. Just a little promo for that surprise guest. I've been doing this for a while now, so I'm kind of excited that you guys are letting me do this. So make sure you follow us and check that out. And have a good rest of your Monday, everybody.
All right, it's Monday. All right, adios, amigos. Hasta la próxima.